Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I manage policy and education work at Historic Houses. For those of you who don't know who Historic Houses is, we are a not-for-profit association who represent about 1,450 independent historic houses across the UK, including the lovely Delapre Abbey. So it's great to be in one of these places today. To give you a scale for the kind of things we're talking about, we in 2022 think our houses had over 21 million visitors, helped support over 32,000 jobs, and generated over £1 billion for the UK economy. On top of that, they had around 7,700 volunteers, and they welcomed over 140,000 students of all ages through their doors. So there's a big numbers to sort of play with here. I'm going to give you a super quick run through of why I think historic houses and wellbeing are really well placed to work together. And then Siobhan's going to give you a much more work through case study of what she does at the Bishop's Palace in Wales. So forgive me as I sort of go through this at pace. So the way I'm framing this is to say that for me and for us, well-being is in essence about making people feel good. That might be mentally, that might be physically, but it's about trying to boost that sense of well-being and that sense of they leave somewhere and they feel better about any aspect of their life. For a lot of people then across the UK, a historic house is a place that may well be really close by them. They have them on their doorsteps and they're places that they can go to do a range of things which would boost those aspects of their lives. It might be going for a really long dog walk in a park. It might be spending time in a really beautiful space, whether that's in a building or simply in a garden. It might be getting a chance to spend time with friends or family in a setting that isn't the home or isn't the workplace. And it also might be meeting new people or making new connections, whether that just be through going and doing something new or whether it's through a dedicated volunteering programme, all that kind of thing. In other houses, I think, in other cases, historic houses can also help build a sense of better well-being in terms of social determinants. So there's loads of brilliant research by Historic England on this already, but many of you will already be aware that pride of place is really helped by heritage assets in the vicinity, and so too is involvement with local decision-making and engagement with local politics and local areas. If you have heritage in the vicinity, you're more likely to be engaged with those things. And historic houses can do that for a community. They can make people feel more connected, they can provide new opportunities, and they can bring a sense of pride, in particularly through regeneration projects that might otherwise have been lacking. I think, therefore, what I'm trying to say is there's no one right way of talking about well-being. It means so many different things to so many different people. And we're really lucky because we have 1,450 independent historic houses, which means that absolutely none of them do exactly the same thing when it comes to well-being. Some of them have quite formal programmes. They might work with their local NHS or GP or primary care network. Others will do much more informal things. They might run groups targeted at people who have high risk of low well-being, whether that be people living with dementia, for example, or perhaps even new mums who might be having a period of change in their life and they need more connection. Others just operate as spaces where people can come to relax, to enjoy social connection and to sort of build their community that way. So it's a real range. A couple of examples that I know about and love, so I'm just going to highlight now. This is Ushall. They're an amazing place in County Durham. It's quite a deprived area in the northeast of England. Ushall was originally founded in 1808 as a Catholic seminary. It closed in 2011 and reopened as a chapel, historic house and garden attraction. They found that the pandemic was amazing for boosting their visibility to their local community, but one of the things they wanted to do post-pandemic was to make those people keep coming back when the world was reopened again. So they put on a whole load of free drop-in activities for people of all ages, from early years forest schools that run weekly, all the way up to dementia-friendly choirs, and pretty much everything in between. The idea being that people can drop in, they can do activities, learn new skills, and build connections in their social area, which is really, really lovely. Powderham in South Devon is an amazing castle. They do all kinds of things related to wellbeing, but this one I really liked. They started working post-pandemic with a local community interest company called Rise and Root Wild, which tries to reach people with complex trauma. The idea being here is that they use the castle grounds and items within the castle to get people to connect to their surroundings, boost their sense of well-being, and it's all done at their own pace, which I think is really important. It's a really tailored approach going on there. Wentworth Wood House, many of you will probably know already, is an amazing house in South Yorkshire that was saved for the nation in 2016 by a big grant from the budget from the then Chancellor Philip Hammond. And the regeneration project at Wentworth Wood House is an amazing example of how heritage regeneration can also help regenerate a community. It's brought new opportunities to an area which was previously lacking them. It's given people something to be proud of in their local area, and it's made them feel like Rotherham is a community that they can be part of, that they don't have to leave in order to do new things or to try new things in the world. The other thing I liked about this one was that they have this very, very simple leaflet, which is available online and in person. So their grounds are completely free to walk around all year round. And the idea of this leaflet is it just gives people a few guided points on aspects of meditation or thoughtfulness that they might want to engage with on a walk. It's very low intervention, but I think it's really helped a lot of people. Mapperton is a house in West Dorset. They've got a rewilding project, very sort of based around the NEP angle. So they run with their primary care network in the Jurassic Coast a social wilding programme. The idea being that people aged 18 to 45 can be referred to them, and it's something that will give them purposeful work to do in terms of nature recovery, but also generate community and social cohesion as they go about doing that. And lastly for me is Dumfries House, which is probably one of the sort of pinnacle case studies, not least because it has loads of cash. It's the home of the King's Foundation in Ayrshire in Scotland. It's an amazing, they've built their own health and wellbeing centre, which opened in 2019. They work with their local NHS and GPs, but they also do lots of work around mental and physical health, about encouraging people to walk in the grounds and reflect and move, sort of get moving. They take them around the house and they want to encourage people to see it as a community asset. And they do things like growing food in the garden and then getting participants in the programme to cook with it, with the idea being to boost sort of wellbeing, sense of ownership of your health as well. So there's a real range of ways that houses in our membership engage with wellbeing. I hope that's a very, very quick overview of them. They've always existed as focal points for their communities, is the final thing to say. And I think that's very true today. Because they're independent houses, all of these examples are based around owners and managers' individual aspects of wellbeing. I know for a fact that some of the people who are pioneering these programs have had their own sort of wellbeing journeys, and it means something different to them. And the programs they put on at those houses reflect that in a very personal way, which I think is really lovely. And I will leave you there and hand over to Siobhan.
It's great to be able to meet lots of similarly minded people today and tomorrow. Really glad to be able to be here. So my name's Siobhan Goodwin, and I'll just say briefly that most of my professional background is as a youth and community worker. So I spent most of my working life in youth clubs, probation hostels, sheltered housing schemes, you name it. And I kind of ended up in the heritage sector, so I'm probably coming at it from a slightly different angle. But I suppose my training really is, and I am going to give you a big long list of what we do at the Bishop's Palace. And I haven't got time to tell you how we do it, but the way my professional background is, it's not just what you do, it's the way you do it. And I can't emphasize that enough. And so sometimes it can be quite difficult in an organisation, especially if you're working with lots of other organisations. My role at the Bishop's Palace is community engagement manager, and I say to people, the best thing about my job is working with lots of different people and lots of different organisations, and that's also the hardest thing about my job, because you want to include people, you want people on board, but of course everyone's coming with a slightly different agenda and perhaps different budgets, different resources. So I think the thing is, you're just doing your best with what you've got, and most importantly, involving the people who you're hoping will participate right from the very, very beginning. So just say a little bit about the Bishop's. There's a lovely picture of the Bishop's Palace, like all the other heritage places you're going to see. We're a charity. The palace has been in Wells, in Somerset, the smallest city in England, for the last 800 years. We've got 14-acre site, which includes a beautiful moat, well pools, and obviously a lovely building. And the largest part of the building you're looking at there is a working chapel. So the Bishop of Bath and Wells still lives at the Bishop's Palace. That's what I think makes it extra special. It's someone's home, as well as a beautiful place to come and visit. And yes, we are a visitor attraction. Like lots of other places, we run events. And I would say in more recent years, we've had much more of a focus on how we can be at the heart of the community. Part of my job was to develop, I suppose, criteria on which we might do that, because believe you me, there are lots of people who would love to spend more time at the Bishop's Palace, especially if it's for free, doing fun, lovely things. And there's no limit to the number of people who'd like to do that, but we have got limited resources. So we do have a criteria, and it's my job to make sure that we're providing opportunities for people who will benefit the most from that. That's not to exclude other people, but we do put our money where our mouth is, and we do give away free tickets. We've set up a community membership scheme, so local organisations can bring people to visit and to enjoy the space and take part in things. So every time we have outdoor theatre, which is a paid-for event, there's a certain percentage of tickets that I can give away. So, for example, I remember last year someone said that from the local mentoring service had brought a couple of young people they work with who would never normally have had the chance to come and see some outdoor Shakespeare. That's just one example. Right, here's the big long list I said I'd say of what we're doing. And of course, I forgot a few things, so I'll add those as I'm going along. I consider that we're, as responsive as we reasonably can be to our local community. So, for example, when we're coming up with our business plan, someone says to me, Siobhan, can you map out what you're going to be doing for the next 5 years? No, because if we do that, and then someone from the local community says, we've got an idea for doing X, Y, and Z, I can hardly turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, that's not in our strategy. So I deliberately keep back some of our resources and some of the funding so that we can respond to the local community. The local food bank doesn't have a 5-year strategy, or they're raising funds for something and they want to know if we can help out. So that's quite important, that we don't, just because of the way we operate, that could exclude people otherwise. I'll put volunteering there because we've got 163 volunteers involved at the Bishop's Palace. And that's really important part of the community's wellbeing, because we do a survey every year of the volunteers. And one of the subjects we ask them about is what they get out of the volunteering. And definitely socially, sometimes as well, people might need it as an opportunity to get some work experience, to perhaps have a change of career or something. So there's lots of things that people get out of volunteering, physical health benefits. So supporting the volunteer team, that's also part of mine and my team's job. A sense of belonging. So I was quite clear, if we're giving out, if people are coming to the Bishop's Palace, we're fortunate because we don't have a day ticket, we have an annual ticket. So we have a local, I'll give one example, we have a local, the local secondary school comes down and works in our community garden. 6 students come on a 6-week course. And at the end of that course, I don't want them to just feel like guests there for 6 weeks, okay? At the end of the 6 weeks, they're given an annual pass for themselves and also an invitation to invite a guest to also get an annual pass, so they can come back for the whole year, bring someone and show them what they've done, and see how the things they've been involved in the garden work through a whole year, a whole rotation of a year. And I'd like to think that might create a new habit for them. You never know, the next year they might buy themselves a ticket, but certainly that will be lasting memories for them over the course of the whole year. I've said about, so we do give out tickets, like I say, to, there's a budget for that. One example is to people at the local food bank. Again, Giving out free tickets is really easy. Doing it in a respectful way so people feel like it's an invitation is really important. So we don't just send 70 tickets to the food bank. We write a letter saying, would you like to have a ticket? If you would, please contact us. I make sure their ticket's written out the same as everybody else's. They come and collect it themselves from the palace. I think that's what I'm talking about when I say it's how you do it. It's not always what you do. You know, everyone else has mentioned Tai Chi. Yes, we've got a bit of that going on. Health walks, wellbeing walks. So we do a monthly wellbeing walk, but we also have a leaflet people can pick up. Looking after our team, okay? I'm the mental health first aider at work, but we also have a health app that the team can use. It's really important if you're talking about wellbeing in your organisation, you're not just doing it for visitors. You've got to start with your own team, including the volunteers. The 5 ways to wellbeing kind of underpin a lot of what we're doing. So keeping learning, taking notice, giving, being active, connecting. Won't go through all of that, but dementia carer support group. I'm going to go on to one particular piece of work that we did. I'll keep it fairly brief, but we ran a 4-week, it was only short, a 4-week course for people living with dementia and their carers. And what we try and do is, as far as possible, not just do stuff by ourselves. It's much better if it's done in partnership with other people. So this was done with a local day centre, and they're the ones who let people know about the group. And we used a model run by the Natural Academy. I don't know if many of you have come across that. I 100% recommend it. It's a really easy model to work to, and the training's excellent. And we used that to design the course. We were working with Exeter University on this because they were doing some research. So they've actually written up some of the research. There's a big conference about it earlier in the year. But I'll just let me go back a couple of slides. We co-facilitated it with the Somerset Wildlife Trust. And what we found was, briefly, of course, everyone loved it. I loved it myself. I used to look forward to my Monday mornings. We've all stayed in touch, the people in the group. They came back at Christmas time. We're going to meet again in the summer. We're going to run another of those courses because actually each week had a theme. Here's the different themes for the week. There's Paul. Each person collected a bunch of flowers. Every bunch was different, of course, because everyone's perception of what beauty is different, and that kind of thing. It was a really, really rewarding experience, and definitely one that we'll repeat. And just in terms of what's next, the trouble is people are always looking for the new exciting thing to do, aren't they? But and we can do new and exciting things, but it's important that we do keep some basics going. So we've got our community garden, we have different groups coming in to use that. We have, like I said, working chapel on site. There's a weekly service there. Like you were saying about the mind, body, spirit side of it. It's getting a balance for people, giving them a choice. But we must play to our strengths. We can't be all things to all people. But if we work with partners, and play to our strengths, I think we can use our resources really effectively. I'll just leave it at that. But what I was going to say was, if anyone wants a copy of the slides, will that go out to people? Yeah. Yeah, so if you want to know how we do it, you can email me or ring me up, okay?